Assalamualaikum and welcome to the class. Today we are going to start the new chapter known as measurement. In this chapter we will see the two basic methods of taking out the quantity. One is known as the long wall and short wall method, and the second one is known as center line method. Before coming to those methods, we need to understand the certain things like what are the principle of units, what are the rules for the measurement, what should be the degree of accuracy, what are the different types of forms available to us, what are the different methods of making an estimate. All these things will be discussed in this chapter. So the first thing we are going to discuss is what are the principle of units. That means how we select a unit for a particular kind of work. The first rule says is if it is the mass, voluminous and a thick work, it should be given the unit of cubic content, that is meter cube. So whenever the case is like all the three dimensions are important to us, length, breadth, height or the depth, these all three are important to us, like the case of the earthwork in excavation where all these three dimensions are important. For that particular work we should measure it in cubic content. That means it should be measured in meter cubes if we are adopting the SI system. The second is shallow, thin and surface work. It should be given the unit of square unit. That means it should be measured in square units, that is meter square. For example, the case of surface dressing and leveling, where only the length and the breadth is important to us. The depth and or the height is not important in case of the surface dressing, therefore it should be measured in the square units. Similarly, if we have a long and thin work, it should be measured in running units. That is simply it should be measured in meters. If we have the piece work or the job work, etc., it should be given the unit of number. That means it should be measured in numbers. Now, talking about some rules for the measurement. First rule is that the measurement should be item wise for the finished item of work, and the nomenclature of the each item shall be fully described so that the work involved is self-explanatory to us. This is the first rule of the measurement. The second is whenever we are booking the dimensions, the order shall be in the sequence of first we should measure the length, then we should measure the breadth, and then we should measure the height or the depth. This is the sequence that we should follow. The same rule says to us that the same type of work under different conditions and nature shall be measured separately. So we need to understand this rule. It basically means, say example, if we have a brickwork in foundation, then we have a brickwork in superstructure. So these are and this is the same type of work, but they are in different conditions, therefore they should be measured separately. The third is that the bill of quantity, that is BOQ, shall fully describe the material, proportion and the workmanship accurately. The fifth one is the work under the following categories shall be measured separately and the height shall be described. That means first we need to calculate from foundation to plinth wall separately, then from plinth to the first footing, similarly from first footing to second footing, and so on. It should be measured separately, and for each item height should be described there. Other thing which we need to understand is the degree of accuracy. What should be the degree of accuracy? So let me show you this. The degree of accuracy, if we are measuring the linear dimensions, it should be to the nearest 0.01 meter. If we are measuring the area, it should be to the nearest 0.01 meter square. If we are measuring the volume, it should be to the nearest 0.01 meter cube. However, there are exceptions, like in the linear dimension, the first exception we have the thickness of slab. The thickness of slab should be measured to the nearest of 0.005 meters. Similarly, steelwork should be measured to the nearest of 0.001 meter. Reinforcement should be measured to the nearest of 0.005 meters. And the woodwork should be measured to the nearest of 0.002 meters. These are the exceptions. All other linear dimensions should be measured to the nearest of 0.01 meter. The second one is the area, that should be measured to the nearest of 0.01 square meters. And for this we also have the exception, that is for the steel work areas excluding the cross-sectional measurements shall be worked out to the nearest of 0.001 meter square. And the third is the volume should be measured to the nearest of 0.01 meter cube, except in case of the woodwork, for which it should be measured to the nearest of 0.001 meter cube. This is for woodwork. This is about the degree of accuracy in estimating. This is as per SP 27 1984. Let me write the name, SP 27 1984. These limits of measurement and the degree of accuracy in estimating is according to the SP 271984. Now talking about the different types of forms that are used in estimating. The first one is details of measurement form. The second is abstract of cost form, and the third one is material statement form. The first two have been discussed in the past. Now talking about the third one, that is material statement form. The estimate is also accompanied with a statement of materials required for the completion of the particular work. For that purpose, the material statement form is made. In this we have different columns. The first one is serial number, then we have the particulars of work, then we have the third column, material, and the third column, that is material, is then subdivided in further columns in which the different materials are mentioned. Like this, we have the serial number, then we have the particulars, and then we have the material. This third column, that is material, is divided into subheads in which different materials are then mentioned. Like we have cement, we have sand, we have gravel, etc. All the things are mentioned this way. Now let us talk about the methods of taking out quantities. The first method of taking out quantity is known as the English method. And the second one is Pwd method. Let me give you a brief idea about the English method. In this we have the four columns, 1 2 3 4, and in the end we have the remarks. In the first column we write like this: A. The second column, the different dimensions are measured. Similarly, the third is for the quantity. Here these things will be multiplied and the quantity will be there, and the fourth one is for the particulars. This first column, it is used for time missing. and it is also used for dotting on. Timesing means the multiplication. It often happens that an item which has already been written occurs a number of times. Instead of repeating the dimensions, it should be multiplied or it is timesed. So this is what I mean by timesing. Similarly, dotting on means if we have to add the similar measurements, then we use the method of dotting on. Let me give an example of timesing. For example, this type of work, we have to multiply it 3 times. We note down it like this, 3. Or again, or if we have to again multiply it 2 times, we will like this. Similarly, if we have to add, then it will be like this. For example, let me show you it here. If this is a B, this is A, all the dimensions are written. For example, this is multiplied 3 times and it need to be also dotted on, so we will dot it and write like this. So this is what I mean by timesing and dotting on. The second column, as I have already told you, is used for the dimensions. The third one is for the quantity and the fourth one is for the particulars. Now coming back to our main method, that is Pwd method, which is here. In case of the Pwd method, we have a simple measurement of form, that is we will have the serial number, then we will have the details, then we will have the number, then we have the length, then we have the breadth, then we have the height or the depth, then we will have the quantity, and finally the remarks. This is the Pwd method of taking out the quantities. Then in the Pwd method we have two methods, that are short wall and long wall method, and the other one is center line method. In the last we will also see some thumb rules for calculating out the quantities, but that will be discussed in the end. Now before going to our basic method, that is the Pwd method, we should have the knowledge of the minimum requirements in the construction of a building, and that means what is the minimum thickness of the wall, how much, if we are providing a projection at some place, what should be its length, what should be the height, what should be the sizes of the rooms, what about the size of staircase. All these things we should know. For this I would recommend you to go through the code IS 1256. This is the code of building bylaws, in which you will see the minimum requirement for the walls, the projections, height regulations, the size of rooms, staircase, size of bricks, thickness of walls for different sizes of bricks, standard specifications for residential building. All these things will you find in that code, that is IS 1256. So this is it for the today. In the next video lecture I will show you the two different methods of taking out the quantities. Thank you very much.